There is a fundamental error in the code of human civilization. It is not a flaw in our politics, our economics, or our technologies. It is an error in perception, a single, deeply embedded assumption that gives rise to all our suffering, all our striving, and all our fear. The assumption is this, that you exist. That inside your body, behind your eyes, there is a separate, isolated self, a fragile entity navigating a vast and indifferent universe. This belief, the belief in a separate you, is the most successful illusion ever conceived. It is the primordial error. From this one mistake, entire worlds have been built. It is the foundation of religions that place God in a distant heaven, forcing you to spend a lifetime seeking a connection you supposedly lost. It is the engine of an economy built on scarcity, convincing you that you are fundamentally lacking and must endlessly consume to feel whole. It is the currency of power systems that thrive on division and fear, because a fragmented humanity is a controllable one. But what if this foundational belief is false? What if there has never been a separate you? What if the consciousness that is looking through your eyes right now is not your consciousness, but the one, undivided consciousness of the universe, experiencing itself in a unique form? This is not a comforting platitude or a philosophical game. It is a claim about the very nature of reality, a truth so radical it has the power to dismantle the world as we know it. This revelation is the core of what the 20th century mystic Joel Goldsmith called the infinite way. It is not a new religion. It is the undoing of religion. It is not a path to a future salvation. It is the recognition of a present perfection. To grasp this is to hold the key that unlocks the prison of the human condition. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. The illusion is so pervasive, so deeply ingrained, that its deconstruction requires a careful, deliberate journey. We must trace the origin of the lie, understand its mechanics, and then, in the silence of our own being, witness its dissolution. The idea of a world split in two is an ancient one. It is the invisible architecture of Western thought. The Greek philosopher Plato gave us the world of perfect, eternal forms and the flawed, shadowy world of material existence. This dualism became the bedrock of Western religion and philosophy for 2 millennia. The divine was placed in a transcendent realm, pure and inaccessible, while humanity was left here, in the world of decay and imperfection. Institutional Christianity, building on this foundation, took the message of a mystic who declared, "I and the Father are one," and recoded it. They turned a universal statement of unity into a singular, unrepeatable event. Jesus became the sole exception, the one bridge to a distant God, and everyone else became a humble supplicant, forever on the outside looking in. The relationship with the divine became a transaction, mediated by priests, rituals, and institutions that held the keys to a kingdom you were born exiled from. Science, in its quest for objectivity, completed the schism. René Descartes cleaved reality into mind and matter, subject and object. The universe became a soulless machine, and the human being a complex biological automaton, a collection of atoms and electrical impulses, a chance occurrence in a meaningless cosmos. We were taught that consciousness is a mere byproduct of brain chemistry, an ephemeral ghost in the machine, destined to be extinguished with the final beat of the heart. This narrative of separation, woven through religion, philosophy, and science, is the water we swim in. It is the unquestioned reality. It tells us that life is a struggle to survive, to improve, to heal, to find meaning, to reach God. It is a race against time, a battle against our own inherent limitations. But while the West was building its cathedrals to a distant God, other streams of thought held a different truth. The sages of the Upanishads in India declared, Atman is Brahman, the individual soul is and always has been one with the Absolute. Zen Buddhism pointed to the empty nature of the self, revealing that the ego we cling to has no solid existence. These were whispers of the same underlying reality, but often, Even these paths became obscured by complex doctrines and layers of ritual. The radical simplicity of the truth was lost. What Joel Goldsmith did was to strip away all the non-essentials. No dogma, no hierarchy, no rituals. Just a single, uncompromising principle. There is only one reality, God consciousness, appearing as everything and everyone. There are no two powers. There is no divine power on one side and a human, mortal, or material power on the other. All of what we call suffering, disease, lack, or evil is not a competing reality. It is a mirage. It is a misperception of the one reality that is. Think of it this way. When you stand on a long, straight set of train tracks, they appear to converge and meet at a point on the horizon. Your eyes report this as a fact, but you know with a deeper understanding that this is an optical illusion. The tracks remain perfectly parallel. They never meet. So it is with all the disharmony of human experience. We perceive lack, sickness, and death. These experiences feel intensely real, but from the perspective of spiritual truth, they are perceptual errors like the converging tracks on the horizon. They have appearance, but they have no substance. This is where the teaching becomes truly subversive. Because if sickness is an illusion, what does that mean for an entire medical industry built on fighting it? If lack is an illusion, what does that for an economic system predicated on endless growth and consumption? And if you have never been separate from God, what is the function of a church? This is not merely a new way of thinking. It is a new way of seeing, and it threatens the very foundations of the world built on the lie of separation. The central pillar of this understanding rests on a shift in identity. When you say the word I, what are you referring to? Are you a body, a collection of memories, a personality? All of these are transient forms. The body changes, memories fade, the personality evolves. But the consciousness that is aware of all these changes, what is that? That awareness has no age, no gender, no nationality. It was there when you were a child, and it is here now listening to these words. This is the real I. This I is not yours. It is the universal I, it is the divine life itself, expressing itself as your individual form. The analogy of glass is a simple but powerful one. Glass can be shaped into a cup, a window pane, or a lens. Each has a different form, a different function. We call them by different names, but the underlying substance of each is still glass. You are the cup, but your substance is God. The form is temporary, the substance is eternal. There is no God in you. There is only God appearing as you. This single idea changes everything. Prayer, for instance, ceases to be a petition. If you believe God is a separate being, you must ask, plead, and bargain. This whole relationship is based on the assumption of lack. But if you understand that the divine life is your own life, prayer becomes an act of recognition. It is not talking to God. It is the silence in which you recognize the presence of God as your own being. It is a shift from asking to knowing, from seeking to being. This has profound implications for healing. The conventional model, whether medical or spiritual, sees healing as a process of fixing something that is broken. It is a journey from sickness to health. But from the standpoint of unity, there was never anything broken in the first place. The spiritual reality of your being, the glass, was never sick, never damaged, never imperfect. What we call disease is a hypnotic picture in the collective mind, a shadow that we mistake for substance. True spiritual healing, then, is not a process of changing a sick body into a healthy one. It is the moment of recognition, the moment the illusion of sickness is seen for what it is. In that instant of seeing, the illusion dissolves. The perfection that was always present is revealed. It is not a miracle in the sense of a supernatural intervention. It is the revealing of the natural state of being, once the mental fog of belief in a separate, mortal self is cleared away. This is why healings can be instantaneous. The process is not in time. The recognition is in the now. The tyrant that holds humanity captive is the belief in time. We live our lives on a horizontal plane, forever traveling from a past We cannot change to a future that never arrives. We work today for a reward tomorrow. We endure hardship now for a salvation later. The spiritual life becomes just another project for the future. One day I will be enlightened. One day I will be healed. One day I will be at peace. But divine reality does not exist in the future. It only exists in this absolute, eternal now. The perfection of your being is not something you will attain. It is what you are right now. The moment you declare, "I will be free," you are postponing that freedom. You are affirming that you are not free now. The language of truth is the language of is. God is, I am, life is, harmony is. To consciously recognize this is to step off the timeline of struggle and into the vertical dimension of being. This is not a denial of planning or practical life. It is the recognition that the substance of your life, the core of your reality, is already complete. Nothing you do can add to it, and nothing that happens can take away from it. When you begin to live from this awareness, the entire fabric of your experience starts to shift. The relationship with your own body transforms. You no longer see it as a fragile, vulnerable machine, but as a temporary expression of an eternal life. This doesn't mean you neglect it, but the deep, existential fear of aging and death begins to dissolve, because you recognize that you are not the form, but the formless life expressing itself through the form. Your identity is no longer anchored in something that is destined to decay. Your relationship with the world changes. The relentless pressure to achieve, to acquire, to become somebody starts to feel like a strange and unnecessary game. When you recognize that your being is already whole and complete, the desperate search for validation and fulfillment in external things loses its power. This doesn't lead to passivity. On the contrary, it leads to a more authentic and powerful form of action. Action that flows from a place of fullness, not from a place of lack. You act not to get something, but to express what you already are. And your relationships with other people are revolutionized. The conventional relationship is a transaction between two separate, incomplete beings, each trying to get their needs met by the other. This dynamic is the source of endless conflict, jealousy, and fear. But when you look at another person and see not a separate ego, but the one divine life appearing in a different form, the entire basis of the relationship changes. Competition gives way to communion. Judgment gives way to recognition. Love ceases to be an emotional dependency and becomes the shared awareness of a single reality. You see the divine in them because you have first recognized it in yourself. This is the silent revolution. It happens not through protest or political change, but through a shift in consciousness, one individual at a time. The world's systems are built on the lie of separation. They depend on you believing you are a separate, lacking, and fearful human being. A global economy depends on you feeling perpetually dissatisfied. Political systems depend on you identifying with one tribe against another. Organized religions depend on you believing you are separate from God. The individual who awakens to the reality of unity is no longer a good consumer, a fearful citizen, or a dependent follower. They can no longer be controlled by the promise of future rewards or the threat of future punishment. They are living from a source of peace and security that is entirely internal. They have withdrawn their belief from the great illusion. And if enough people were to do this, the entire scaffolding of our civilization, built on that primordial error, would begin to crumble. So, how does this recognition happen? It is not an intellectual achievement. You cannot reason your way into unity. The mind that thinks in terms of separation cannot grasp a reality where separation doesn't exist. The ego cannot understand its own non-existence. The door to this reality is not thought, but silence. This is the true purpose of meditation. It is not a technique to calm the mind or achieve a special state. It is the practice of dehypnosis. It is the act of consciously and repeatedly withdrawing your attention from the endless chatter of the mind, the stream of thoughts, memories, plans, and fears, and letting it rest in the simple, silent awareness of the present moment. In the beginning, the mind resists. It will tell you this is boring, that it's a waste of time, that you have more important things to do. The ego, the sense of a separate self, is a creature of thought. It survives by constantly narrating a story about me. In silence, it begins to starve. But if you persist, something remarkable happens. In the gaps between thoughts, you begin to sense a presence. A deep, quiet stillness that is not empty, but full. It is the consciousness that was there before the thought arose. It is the background of pure awareness against which the entire drama of your life unfolds. This is not something you create. It is something you discover. It has always been here. This is your true nature. This is the divine presence. The work is not to build something new, but to clear away the mental debris that has obscured what has always been. Every moment you spend in silence, you are weakening the grip of the illusion. You are unlearning a lifetime of conditioning. You are remembering who you truly are. This journey requires a different kind of courage. It is not the courage to fight external enemies, but the courage to let go of your most cherished possession, your identity. It is the willingness to stand naked without the story of me and to trust the silence. To trust that what you are is infinitely greater than who you think you are. The world will continue to scream the story of separation. It will present you with endless evidence of lack, danger, and division. Your own mind will be its most powerful accomplice, but you will have a secret. You will know that what you are seeing is the appearance, not the substance. You will know that behind the shifting mirage of the world, there is an untouchable, unchanging reality. And that reality is not separate from you. It is what you are. You have never been a human being seeking a divine experience. You have always been the divine experience, temporarily appearing as a human being. Recognize this. Live from this, and you will be free.